anime.
Yeah.
Have you heard of it? Over here in the West, it's always been very easy to tell what anime you should watch and what is popular. At the end of the day, if it was showcased on Toonami on Cartoon Network, well, that's the only anime I even knew as a kid. Before the days of being able to watch any anime ever created, in 500 parts in 8-minute segments on YouTube, you pretty much just watch whatever Cartoon Network decided to localize for you. And so it is not surprising that everybody was aware of every anime that was playing because there were like 5. But as time has gone on, there is so much manga and anime to be able to pick between, it only makes sense that they have started to try to set themselves apart, grab your attention, because you're probably judging the book by its cover, so it only makes sense that the cover would have a pretty crazy name to grab your attention.
I really want to fuck my little sister, but I can't because I turned into a slime. Now I got teleported to another world where 5 gobbling, hungry harem of sexy, triple D breasted women need my semen to regenerate their mana or they'll die.
How come anime and manga have such weird names? In the world of Japan, manga is a bustling business. There are thousands of these things released every year, and so it makes you wonder how somebody can take a book and make you want to buy it over any other book. One way is to have a title that grabs your attention. It isn't easy enough to just be like, demon kid with special powers fights everybody in his high school. There's 1,000 of those. Much more efficiently, you could make a manga titled something like, I Want to Eat Your Pancreas? And I'm immediately filled with questions. 10,000 mangas released in a year, or 10% off GamerSupps using my link in the description. I would argue it's a very easy choice. I'm drinking caffeine-free lemonade out of my waifu cup, and I have to say it's very pancreas. An unnamed male high school student comes across a book in a hospital waiting room and discovers that it's a diary kept by his very popular classmate, Sakura Yamuchi, who reveals to him that she is secretly suffering from a fatal illness in her pancreas. Despite this, Sakura intends to maintain a normal school life and thus is drawn to him due to his relatively unfazed reaction to her condition. So this sounds like it's The Fault in Our Stars. Somebody has cancer and is gonna die, but somebody decides that it's still worth being their friend? That sounds like a dope-ass manga that I would never read because why would I be into this cutesy manga? But it turns out that it's titled, I Want to Eat Your Pancreas, and now it's at the top of my anime list. There are a number of reasons why these stories are titled the way that they are. The obvious one is the one we're discussing now, which is that the crazier that you make the title of something, the more intriguing it is amongst the thousands of other books that are probably on a shelf that you need to pick from. But according to some people online, some of them are sort of mistranslations, or basically they'll have a better title in Japanese, but when changed over to English, the authors are kind of like, listen, we put all of our effort into making the story good and trying to make it representative here in the home country. If we're gonna spend the money to send it over to America, just make it as clickbaity as you can, because we gotta make it worth the dough. One of the most well-known animes or mangas in the genre of shows that has sort of a funky title is That Time That I Was Reincarnated as a Slime. It isn't anything too crazy, but this was before titles started to get really stupid, and this is a pretty well-respected show for being a show that's mostly known for the fact that its title's kind of wonky. A good chunk of these shows that have a title that sound like a song out of a Fall Out Boy album fall under the umbrella of Isekai, which is a Japanese word that relates to being teleported to another world. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with the trope of getting hit by a truck and then waking up as a slime. If you guys aren't familiar with anime that has you teleported into another world and then does the entire story over there, I suppose the best Western example that nobody would argue with would be Futurama. The isekai genre is one that has grown to a tremendous amount of popularity as a trope in Japanese media. The first big isekai that I watched, if you don't count Yu Yu Hakusho, was Sword Art Online. The thing that I really appreciated that show was that because it was an isekai, it had a reason to explain everything to you, the viewer. If you've already lived here forever, why is somebody explaining to you how your job works, or somebody's introducing themselves to you as your childhood best friend? You should know this already. But in an isekai, where the viewer or the reader has to be able to relate to the main character, and the main character has no idea the rules or the characters of this world, now there's a storytelling reason as to why the death tournament is being explained in detail. Every area is being lore-driven. Every character is introducing themselves and their job and what they're good at, because you've never been here before. And naturally, when you have a manga that's titled something like Reincarnated as a Vending Machine, Now I Wander the Dungeons, I would like a little explanation as to why I'm a vending machine and what a dungeon has to do with this. Thankfully, because our main character doesn't know why he's a vending machine either, all of that is explained to him, and therefore to me, making it an excellent little hand-in-hand explanation of why the fuck am I a vending machine. The vending machine anime, I think, is actually a pretty good one. I haven't seen every isekai known to man, believe it or not, but it's like a dude is a vending machine and he can't move, and then he meets a girl who for some reason is so strong that she can pick up the vending machine, and so they become friends. But also she's super clumsy, but something about holding the vending machine on her back makes it so that she's way more balanced and can actually fight, whereas before she was too clumsy to do anything. So they have this cute little partnership. I actually own the book. I actually own the first book of Reborn as a Vending Machine, and I'm a little bit proud of that. I guess while we're going through my collection, I also have My Girlfriend is a T-Rex, as well as The Devil is a Part-Timer, which is about if Satan worked at McDonald's. That they're all pretty good. And before anybody calls me a normie, I also have the entirety of Death Note, the Black Edition, as well as a hardback copy of the first episode of Berserk. And You Thought There Is Never a Girl Online is an example of a title that isn't that crazy, but does very well evoke the overall vibe of the story that it's telling. You can tell from its sort of silly title that it isn't going to be a story that takes itself seriously, and also probably relates to online culture and gaming, making it instantly recognizable to its target audience. If you see that title, you're probably going to enjoy the book, and you haven't even read it yet. The anime is about a dude who proposes to a crush that he had in an online game, but is rejected after the girl tells him that she was actually an old man in real life. How relatable. Later on, he finds himself in a guild with 3 other female players, one of which, bearing the name Akko, falls in love with the main character, but the trauma of his past still haunts him. After one fateful encounter, he learns the true identity of his guildmates, that not only are they just girls that he met online, but also his schoolmates. If this was just a story about a dude falling in love with his classmates at school, that would be like 10,000 other stories that already exist. But for him to have met them through online gaming and also to have been tricked into falling in love with someone who turned out to be an old dude sets the stage for a title that now grabs your attention more efficiently. Infinitely better than I Have the Hots for My Classmate, right? The genre of isekais that led to the main character having to fight in a dungeon in one way or another is incredibly popular because the trope is something that young readers love to relate to. You get to be a hero, there's some romance, some goofiness. Everybody makes a manga like this. Because of the success of these sorts of stories, these isekais, these otherworldly shonen-driven action mangas, you now have stories that at their basis are exactly that, but need to add just a little bit of funk and spice to make it different from everything else in its category, leading to some of the best goofy titles in my opinion. Is it wrong to try to pick up girls in a dungeon? Is obviously just another one of these mangas that's about being teleported to another world and suddenly having to fight through a dungeon, get stronger, defeat the ultimate boss. But then you add in the spice of trying to date somebody during all of this, and it's like, hey, wait a second, that's new. Do you love your mom and her 2-hit multi-target attacks? Is it just another isekai where you're fighting through a dungeon? Probably. But now your mom's there, and she has AoE? I hope this doesn't go where I think it's gonna go. According to Google, the term ecchi is a Japanese word that refers to light and playful sexual themes in a manga or anime. It is not quite as adult or pornographic as straight up hentai with its tentacles, but rather is more like panty and boob shots that you might be associating with like fan service in more mainstream animes. As a result, the mangas that fall under the ecchi category have some of the funniest titles for their stories because they're really just trying to act as a string of tags to let you know what deviant shit might be in this book, you degenerate. I want you to make a disgusted face and show me your underwear. Now you might be thinking, Sumito, what is the story about? Except you're not. because the title does such a good job at letting you know what this story is about that you don't even need to think, hey, is this going to be good enough for me to want to purchase and read? No, it's going to be about girls that are going to make a disgusted face while showing you their underwear, and you're either into that or you're not. Who needs to read the back of a book? The title has this handled. If I don't successfully pick up 420 girls, I am going to die in a lot of different ways. Premise. Stakes. A huge number of girls, like honestly, an insurmountable number of girls that you evidently need to be able to pick up. I am already invested in the title of this story. That time I got reincarnated as the puppy of a level 1 female sword fighter. I just have so many questions. I was reincarnated as a hot spring in an alternate world, and I'm way too effective. High school student Atami Kusatsu, on his way to a rural onsen, meets a tragic accident along the way and dies. But then, he's reincarnated as a hot spring in a fantasy universe. In this world, the liquefied main character finds himself to have remarkable physical and mental healing powers, and such is visited regularly by a beautiful elven adventurer, a large-breasted priestess, and a petite villager chiefess. Bruh, the story of just being a hot guy and getting to get with other hot women is boring. It's way more interesting to be water. I think Bruce Lee said that. The wildly popular assassination classroom occasionally gets shortened down to just ass class, which isn't really up at the ranks of all the other stories we've taken a look at, but I still think it's funny. A girl from upstairs fell on my dick. Sasuke lives in a rundown apartment building where his only consolation is that the landlord is a beautiful woman and the girl who lives above him is cute. One day, the ceiling above him cracks and bang! In from the second floor directly above him, the cute girl comes crashing down on him in an erotic encounter that can only be classified as a miracle. Hearts and bodies are connected by chance. How is this a premise? Reincarnated as a YouTube outro, Now I Wander, the Patreon credits roll. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. I'm sure there are some examples of goofy anime and manga titles that I missed. Please let me know your favorites down in the comments. I'm excited to read through some of the ones that I didn't bump into. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed watching this video. It really helps out the channel. A big thank you to the patrons scrolling in the back. Thank you so much for supporting the show, and I will catch you guys in tomorrow's video, yeah? Peace!